Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Chris Legaspi. I am a professional artist, author, and anime instructor. And today, my friends, we have a special guest today. Today, I wanted to introduce one of my mentees that's been with me for a while, and he's gotten some incredible results. And today, we're going to learn a little bit about him and share his story today. So, I want to introduce our good friend Corey Jones today.
Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for having me, Chris. I always enjoy talking to you, and I love talking about art.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate your time today. And that's one thing I appreciate about you as well is that you're kind of like me. You're kind of like a big art geek. You're a bit obsessive about it,
Yeah,
and because of your background, which we'll find out, you this is part of your job is to
yeah,
think about art, to dissect art, and you also do a lot of education work yourself.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
appreciate you. With that in mind, Corey, and what do we do is I'm going to show some of your beautiful work on screen. So, Corey, with that in mind, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you're located, a little bit about your background, and some of your professional work and experience as well.
Sure. Well, Corey Jones, and a bit of my background is I'm originally from a very small town in Pennsylvania called Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And the funny origin story is like I was always that kid in high school and in primary early school, elementary school that was like the artist. And everybody knew Corey's the guy who likes to draw. He can draw really well. And this sort of small town really sort of groomed me into this idea that I'm a creative person, that I want to take on a career in something related to art. Of course, I was interested in many different things starting out. um, but that was the start of it. That was really the spark that kind of could have sort of obviously growing up, your parents put your pictures on the fridge, and you really start to get this confidence about you. And I had that. And I went to school at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, um,
Oh,
and I originally went to school for animation, and not too many people know that story. That I thought I
mm,
was going to be a Disney illustrator, making cartoons for Disney. And the biggest thing I can say about going to a school for something so specialized like animation, you realize very quickly that you're not that great. You're not as good as you think you are, because the competition is different. Coming from a small town, all my life, you're the best artist, you're the best artist. But then you see the competition, and you're like, wow, I've got a lot of work to do. Um, and I was interested in animation. I was listening to in this idea of making cartoons, but I realized that I didn't want to do that. That I wanted to do something much more broad. So I ended up switching to graphic design. And this is related to one of the reasons I'm working with you, Chris. Is I had extensive training in design, and I've always tried to incorporate design thinking into my work, into my illustrations, and anything that I was making. I've always thought about composition. I've always had that in mind. So that's sort of was my background in art, is really just this idea that, like, I knew I was a creative person, but I didn't know what kind of creative person I wanted to be. So I ended up switching from animation. Um, the actual story of why I switched out of animation is because I was I was worried that I wasn't going to make it in animation as a young black creative, and that's the real story behind it. I didn't feel like I fit in that space, but I knew I had potential. I knew that maybe a field of graphic design would open up a lot more opportunities for me. Didn't have a lot growing up, so I kind of took the route that would get me to making money and get me to something that I can really leverage as a career professional. So that that's the reason why I sort of took this route of graphic design, and you'll see that in a lot of my work, that there's a sense of balance and composition. Um, a lot of these things became much more refined working with Chris. um, but I've always had that sort of thinking in my work. And but I love drawing. My earliest education was really just Marvel Comics. The
Mm.
I this drawing, if you can see it, is this book here is like the gold for me. It's a collection of comic cards. I was a big
Mm.
collector of comic cards.
Oh wow.
That was my education. Um, but you know what this did? This taught me to be what I would say a great copy machine, like a good copy machine. And I would, be in my room for hours, like 8 hours at a time, just like lost in these comics, just trying to recreate what I saw in these comic cards and little illustrations that I was obsessed with. So that was when probably my earliest education is just really being inspired by the Marvel comics and DC comics, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. I just love that, and it's always something that I gravitate to when I do make art. It's usually something related to comics and sort of character driven. So that's kind of a little bit of my early days.
Yeah, thank you. And now that I know that about you, your card collection, I could see the influence now looking at your it makes
Yeah,
a lot of sense now. You kind of compose like you are making a little card in a way, which is this it's basically a poster or a cover, it's the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Very true. Very true.
Oh, I didn't know you went to Art Institute. So,
Yeah.
did you before you met me, did you take other like art
Oh,
courses or
yeah.
online things or anything like that?
So the downside of switching to graphic design is you lose out on a lot of the formal art training that you would get, like life drawing. The figure drawing courses get more narrow, so your focus is mostly on design. So they pull you away from like that foundational um, art classes. Now, of course, the way the art suit was set up is you could choose some additional classes that would be the equivalent of a minor. And so I chose a lot more illustration classes, and they were the classes that sort of gravitated towards were more character based. So editorial illustrations. So I learned early on about the line deckers and some of those other iconic illustrators, American illustrators, but not but moving from the animation space and the animation curriculum took me further away from that foundational art that I really needed. And I didn't realize this until much later, but I really needed that to get to the next level. Um, so, um, so most of my illustration work that I did during school was mostly geared towards an illustration for an ad. It was always connected to some form of graphic design, some form of advertising. Um,
Mm,
and it typically wasn't portraiture. It was was usually something like a product design, and things like that, or we're sort of illustrating a layout. And I became a really good sketch artist. I just constantly sketching and really just planning out design. But most of the drawing I did back in those days was just for fun, just illustrations for fun. um
mm,
I was really obsessed with movie posters and cover art that I seen for like films. And back in the day, this, Chris, like you could those were hand drawn. Those were done by hand. But I didn't realize that uh that was something that I would ever want to do. Like, I just thought that was super cool that somebody's out there doing that. But maybe I can't draw good enough for that. And so I've kind of never really pursued the poster art. And I think that's part of the reason why I was really interested in your work, is I saw that and I was like, "Ooh, I remember that." I was like, I would love to do that one day. And I didn't think too much of it. And we all sort of get wrapped up in their careers. So what I am today is a creative director working in the creative industry, advertising, marketing. Um, and I often work with a lot of illustrators. So I had to develop the eye, maybe a little bit more of a refined eye for what good work is, more so than say the the actual execution of it. So I had to have the taste. So really, it was about having good taste and being able to spot it, good work when I see it. That was my early education, and a little bit before I met you, Chris. What I was kind of doing. Probably like maybe right before I met you, like I started to dabble around with like Proco. There was
Mm-mm.
st-
Oh,
stand
it's just
yes,
online stuff
yeah,
on.
online
Okay.
stuff, and
Mm.
it was all useful, but nothing really. I didn't feel like I belonged there. I didn't feel like there was a community that I really connected with, and so it was just basically felt like me just doing a tutorial and hoping for the best. I didn't get a lot of like one-on-one time or expert. It was more just take a class.
Mm.
And I love to draw, so I'm one of those people that's kind of a serial learner. I taught myself motion graphics and animation, that's more on the marketing side, where it's motion driven, not so much like a Disney animation, but more animated graphic design, I would call it. But I'm always learning something new. I'm always learning something new.
Okay, thank you for that, Corey. And what I want to do, that's a great introduction into when you first started with me. And how did you discover me, by the way, in the beginning?
Yeah, so I think I feel like I discovered you. It could have been related to some of my YouTube searching, and just because I was always on YouTube, I was always looking for different tutorials, and I saw this guy. It was like, oh, okay, it's this guy named Chris. He does movie posters, and I started watching your videos, and I started seeing like, okay, this guy is not only an exceptional illustrator, he's an exceptional designer. And
Mm.
that kind of caught my attention, and really honestly caught me by surprise, because you don't see too many instructors out there teaching um, you know hardcore fundamentals in drawing, but also how to make pretty pictures, and how to compose things in a way that's going to pull the viewer's eye in. The 1 2 3 reads, and a lot of the things that I picked up learning from you, like I didn't those things I didn't I might have known about them from a graphic design standpoint, but I never thought about them in my illustration work. um and so that caught my attention. I found, saw you on YouTube, and I did the YouTube route for a while. I was, doing, taking, looking at your videos, sketching, and always kind of getting better. Um, and that's kind of how I discovered you, and I'm certainly glad I did.
Okay, good. Yeah, that reminds me to make more videos like that.
Yeah,
All right, so what I'm gonna do now is, Corey, is I'm gonna put on screen some of your earlier works,
yeah.
and this is a combination of some works you did before you met me and some work you did when we started training together. It was a bit, so about 2 years ago, I believe. No, a little bit more than that,
Ma-
2022, I believe.
yeah. It's been a little while now. Yeah,
So here we have some
yeah,
drawings. Wow, this is a nice drawing.
yeah. Y- y- you know, the thing is like I could always draw, because I was great at copying, like but
Mm.
I didn't understand what I was drawing. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
so like when it comes to like likeness or all those different things, it was like, okay, it's something's, it's close, but there's something off. And I the thing is I've always noticed that there was something off. I just couldn't articulate it, and I didn't know what it was. And
Mm.
and I would burn myself out trying to figure it out, just drawing and drawing and drawing, and constantly pushing myself. But I just became a really good copy machine,
Mm.
and so you can. There's the essence of Mike Tyson. There's the essence of the character, or the essence of Basquiat. Like you could see the person underneath there. Um, but I needed somebody else to push me to the next level, so I can really, really define those forms and understand that there's a skull under that drawing. There's
Yes.
muscles,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I mean, the early stuff, it's not the worst in the world, and I'm a really obsessive person when it comes to learning a new skill and getting better. Um, so I'm not ashamed of this stuff at all, because I feel like it is always important to take a step back and reflect. And I was doing that this morning, just like looking where I've come, how far I've come and where I've been. And I needed that to boost my confidence. I needed that to let me know that I'm on the right path. And so I'm proud of the drawings I've done, but I'm excited about where I'm going.
Yeah, that was a great analysis, and this is the first time we've really talked about
Yeah.
your journey in the beginning, and it makes so much sense because that's exactly what I see now. I'm like, oh yeah, he he knows how to draw by copying a picture,
Yeah.
but the stuff underneath is really where the magic is at, and that was the journey you came through. So let's now that we've seen your early work, the journey was very exciting because
Yeah.
full disclosure, those of you watching, it was not easy.
No.
Man, I rode Corey. Oh my goodness. And I gotta commend you, Corey, because
Yeah.
you've fought through many comfort zones. Every artist has it's just like a video game. You level up and then you fight the boss, and then if you're having enough skills, you beat the boss and you move on to the next level. I
Yeah.
felt like you ran through many bosses, Corey, when you
Yeah.
were with me,
Yeah.
especially like second year around 2023 or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, it would
Yeah.
let me I have some images that I
Yeah.
want to share.
Well, just that was a very humbling experience, and
Mhm. Mhm.
because I'm a accomplished creative director, right? At the time that I discovered you,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm very much accomplished in my field. I'm a growing superstar in the field, if you want to
Mhm.
call it that. Like
Mhm.
starting to become known for that other work, and to come in and say, "Hey, you're not quite a superstar yet. You've got a lot of work,"
Mm.
and but I don't, I pride myself on not having that ego, and always being open to criticism and feedback. And so it was rough. It was tough to hear some of that feedback, but I knew I
Mm.
needed that. And I've told you this is like, Chris, you got to be tough on me. I need that sort of tough love, to help me grow and get better. And I'm glad you did, because I sat back and looked at some of the newer stuff. I'm like, wow, that is like a major transformation. Like I didn't see it at first, and then I started looking back. And actually, one of the other academy students, a brilliant artist, Willie,
Really. Mm.
Willie kind of like was like, "Hey Corey, this is like major. Like I could see the improvement." And that was a moment where I was like, "Oh wow." Somebody else who's been in it with me also noticed how much I've grown. So it really was sort of that validation. Um, but yeah, I took the coursework very seriously, and
You did. You did. Here's
and
some on screen here.
I mean, I still have your post-it, like from one of the lessons really
Oh,
early on. So okay, this was sort of another aha moment, and that's the reason why I keep this post-it. Is I have four things on here to think about when you're tackling a drawing, and you said, folk, look at the shape, think about the shape, square, triangle. These are all shapes, of different people, the type of heads, but also think about the idea behind it, the design. Think about the nature of it. Are they curious? Are what are they doing? You taught me about thinking about that, and then breaking down the planes and rhythms. Look for the planes and rhythms. And then my arch nemesis that I've really had to work on is the 3D form.
the
It's like
form.
the form. It
Yes.
was like, I was like, it's almost there, but Corey, that right, like here, that cutting the turn, like from
Oh, the corner.
the
I got
corner,
on you hard about the corner.
cutting the corner. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's just not working out. But I needed to keep going through that. I needed to keep hearing that. And yeah, so I keep this posted as like just a reminder of all, anytime I approach a drawing, but just a reminder that um you know I've put in the work. So I'm
Mm.
excited about it.
You did, and I think the important thing is the humility. Corey came to me with an established career. He is basically he's a creative director. So if you guys don't know what that means, he hires and fires artists. How about that? So he
Yeah.
came to me as a guy who hires and fires artists, and he had the humility to be real with himself. Like, yeah, he's right. I do need to work on this,
Yeah.
and you kept coming back. That's the beautiful thing. Anybody can do a nice drawing and then come back the next day. Anybody can have a do a nice sketch and be like, oh, let me come back the next day. What's hard is when you get hit on the head, when you do two or three or four or five terrible drawings, when maybe you have a teacher or someone you respect and they're telling you, yo, your work is trash this week. you
Yeah.
know um can you come back from that? That's what takes courage. So I commend you, Corey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You kept coming back.
Yeah.
You fall down and you kept getting back up. What else can you do? What else
Yeah.
can you do?
Yeah, you were like, Corey, I know you could do this. I know you're
Yeah,
better than this. And
yeah.
it's just, sometimes what it is like you got to be careful to not fall back into old habits, and the old habits are what are the hardest to break, and they're the comfort zones that you rely on when you're in a pinch. And I had some bad habits and bad comfort zones that forced me to, forget what I learned, the fundamentals, and so that's why I keep a lot of this stuff around as reminders, and I'm always trying to share more of my work with Chris early on, and really thinking about the planning stages of the work, using that opportunity to go back and forth, just to always have that, person to remind me that, hey, remember what we learned, remember our training, and I needed that. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I need that constant reminder, and I'm all and it's the reason why I've stuck around for so long, is because um I just want to keep I want to be great. I want to keep striving to be great. And
Mm.
you can only do that, and this is a big aha moment that you many people don't realize, until later in their career. You need an expert or in your circle. You need somebody who's going
Or
to
more
hold
than
you
one.
accountable. Yeah, more than one. You really
Mm.
do. You need somebody to hold you accountable
Mm.
to push you to be great, if that's your plan. But art is never, you're never done. You're never done learning. It's, you know what I mean. And like, if you want to be, you know um a great, and you want to be known for art, you've got to keep growing and getting better. And and I even say, teaching and giving back to other artists who are just, because I always tell some I mentor a lot of designers. I always tell them that you might not think you're great right now, but where you are right now, there are like hundreds of people who are just one step below you, looking up at you. And so you have the power to um, help those people under you get better. And so by sharing what you're learning, you're kind of you're feeding this engine of like the art industry and art, and you're giving back, but also you're refining what you've learned, and you're keeping what you learned fresh, and by teaching it to others, it really helps you.
Yeah, you touched on something important there, is the importance of having the right people around you. It confirms to me what I initially thought is I think because you're so graphically trained, you're trained flat, which is fine. That's what
Yeah.
graphic is. Drawing, I mean, drawings and paintings are flat. So you're so trained to arrange flat things that when it came time to do modeling or suggest modeling on
Yeah.
paper, it was a big switch for you. So
Yeah.
that was a huge win. And speaking of wins, let's talk about a couple of your wins. You had some exciting big moments that happened during your training with me around year two or so.
Yeah.
I would say let's talk about your career success.
Keep your eyes open. Hip the Remix. Could be on Netflix one day. They're really shopping the series around. But Troy Hogan is a pretty accomplished actor. He's most known for Righteous Gemstones, which is I think it's an HBO series. Working with Chris built up my confidence. As I started to
Mm,
get better, I started to have the confidence to infuse more art into my day job, into my work, and the thing that I do from day to day. Because I didn't do that before I met you, Chris, and I did, and and it really actually transformed my career, I will say, because it wasn't until I started doing that that I had this moment of realization that this is actually who I am and who I
Mm,
want to be. But I started to get more eyeballs. People were starting to come to me and say, I like that thing you did. And can you do that thing for me? And so this sort of poster concept here was me sort of infusing the new illustration and portraiture skills that I learned with my old school graphic design knowledge. And I've ended up coming up with this poster that they're going to use to promote the series. And I got a really, really nice personal message from Troy Hogan about this
mm,
work. He was so impressed. He was just really, really thrilled. He had never seen anything like this before, and certainly didn't imagine it for himself as the featured person. And I'm really excited to say this actually led to some other work that's not so much
mm,
illustration, but it's major film. And
mm,
so
mm,
um,
mm.
it it's like the catalyst, that this was really a big catalyst for me. Um, this is up there with the Smithsonian project but all this came from like the confidence of to say, I'm an artist, a capital A artist. That's who I am. I'm Corey Jones. I'm an artist. And I didn't say that for a long time. It was many other things, but I never really consider myself much of an artist, even though other people might call me an artist, but I always felt insecure about my art. And maybe that's just the story of all artists, the insecurities. But yeah, this was a really great project that was illustration. It was motion graphics, a lot of motion graphics involved, and design work. And that font you see, I hand drew that font and illustrated that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hot.
yeah. So I handed that. So it was funny because I had a lot of sketches, and I'm sorry I don't have any of those now, but I had a lot of sketches that had this handwriting on it that they said, what is that handwriting? We really like your handwriting. Is you think you could figure out how to make that into a font? And so I did. I figured it out in a weekend. I was dedicated. I was drawing each character hand by hand and ended up making my own font called Festus. And you know, the funny story behind the name is his father his nickname was Willie Festus, and so I kind of chose his namesake for the font because it was for the film. But yeah, this was the new improved Corey, the confident Corey, and now I feel like I'll take on a commission. I'll do anything now with and use my hands and create art. So um,
Mm.
thank you, Chris.
So just to summarize, you basically started drawing more with me. Your drawings improved, and then other opportunities started reaching out to you.
Yeah.
That's what from what I understand. Okay, thank you for that. And that was huge. So that was kind of like the first big like, whoa, man, this drawing stuff is paying off.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this is really exciting. Your big win with the Smithsonian project, the Simmons Talks, I believe.
Yeah. Simmons talks. Yeah. Simmons
Okay,
talks.
let's put that on screen because that is exciting.
So
Okay, so
these are all like hand painted digital.
yes.
Now Chris knows this about me. I'm not much of a digital artist, and I didn't really do a lot of digital before I met Chris, because I love the pencils. There's something about the traditional medium that I just can't let go of. But I wanted to explore it for this project because it allowed me to sort of like have something that was scalable and a lot more flexible for the client. So the creative brand. I just I just said one day I'm gonna draw a picture of Bruce Simmons just for fun, and I want to make it super stylized, very vibrant. This was purely for fun and because I was training and learning these skills, and I was hesitant on showing the client because it really wasn't something they came and said we wanted to do an illustration of Bruce Simmons, and so um I showed them and they loved it, and it became the foundation for the entire system. So I'm glad I did it. Um, but it led to some more exciting projects. The one you have up now.
Wait, so let me try to recap what you said. You pitched an idea with your drawings.
Yeah, I
Basically,
did.
you pitched, wow.
I pitched an idea, and it was a ninth hour curveball move that I said, you know what, I really like this drawing. I'm just going to show it. And I showed it, and it they said we love it so much it's going to become our figure for all the talks going forward. And and we want you to sort of build a system around it. So I built like the paintings of the little shapes and the sun and the other elements of the system. um that one drawing sort of inspired the whole entire brand system for it. It was very painterly, very illustrative.
Mm.
um, they love that look, and they're still using it to this day. So I'm really really proud of that project.
Oh, congratulations. That's proof that
Yeah,
drawing skills lead to income. Let's be real. I'm walking proof that if you draw faces well, you can make pretty good money. And
100%.
your story just demonstrate that. He
Absolutely. Yeah.
he took he had a client that wanted some of his advertising work, his professional work, but he said, "Hey, I can also draw too." And they
Yeah.
said, "Oh, yeah, you know what? We'll pay you for that. Why not?" That
Yeah.
is incredible. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Whew.
And you know what, to be to for for those who are watching out there, it's not about how skilled you are. It's just having the confidence to use the things that you're learning. You're using your illustration to drive your work, because this stuff is like magic. It looks like magic to the everyday person. And a lot of times in my work, I'm not selling to another artist. I'm selling to a professional organization. They might not have as sophisticated of an eye. um, so, the stakes aren't as high as you think they are, and they're not going to point out whether your form is all the way off. Just have the confidence to do it, because it can lead to money if you just have the confidence to use what you learned. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
Share the work. Um, and yeah, so that project, just it just kept growing after that. Another project and another project. So, um, I'm really really glad I ended up doing it.
Speaking of another project here, I'm gonna pull up this women in history.
Yeah. So this is
Is this related to the Smithsonian?
they're another Smithsonian branch. The Smith,
Okay.
the American history, the
Yeah,
Women's
talk
History
about
Museum.
this project because you a lot of your hand drawings are here.
Yeah,
How
a
did
lot
this
of
come about? What's going on? Tell us about this.
Yeah, so this project, the that organization was very familiar with the Ruth Simmons project. Um, but the goal of this exhibition was to really highlight these prominent women in history who've made a contribution in history, but not everybody knows who they are. So the idea behind the becoming visible was that there are a lot of women who've made major contribution to history, but not everybody, they're not in the mainstream media. It was sort of a man's world back in those days. And the illustration route really was inspired by a couple things. There isn't a lot of great photos or photography of these women to really highlight. So we had to get creative. And I said, well, I can draw, so maybe I'll just illustrate. And so I illustrated one, and then they were like, that looks great. And then so
Mm,
I was like, okay, well, I'll illustrate another one. And so I ended up illustrating a lot of these iconic women from history with very few reference. Because keep in mind, the whole point, they didn't have a lot of good references. And so I think that was why I was really glad to be working with Chris so closely. Um, we had to, I had to sort of invent a lot of features based off of multiple different photos at the same time. So at really really low resolutions. And
mm,
so had I not had that training and understanding the underlying forms and understanding the structure behind a face, me, I was a copy machine, so I couldn't
mm.
rely on that copy making skills. And so to do
No,
these,
you would have been
i
lost.
i had to have some foundation. And I'm also a traditionalist. I like to use pencil and paper. I mean, I was still learning how to be a better digital illustrator, and um, and building up, the right tones and color. And yeah, so these are the kind of references we had, like,
Yeah,
other people's illustrations from that time.
I
So
remember some of them. Very vintage. Imagine guys like vintage old. I'll bring up
vin-
one more here.
yeah, so it's
I'll bring
super
up one more
some
like this.
vintage. Yeah, I
These
mean,
are this is what he had to work with.
I had that to work with, and it was like, oh man. And and it was like, and also the client was sort of like, we want her to be uh a little bit maybe in her youthful days. And so I had to keep in mind, cognizant of the age, that I was, they had this really older picture with, that was, she was in her older age. And then they have this illustration picture that was maybe she was younger. And so I had to sort of use that as my foundation to create these drawings. But it was, really, really, really fun. Yeah, this one wasn't really a portrait for this particular one here, but there was Isabel Morgan, who was one of the women who discovered the polio vaccine, or played a major role in that. It's very rare that you are working on a project and it feels effortless, and like it just, you could work on it all night. And when you're when you feel connected to your work, it's really kind of magical because the work looks great, better. The work looks better, and that's just because I wasn't afraid to use my skills. I wasn't afraid to use what I learned and use the illustration, because that's who I am and that's who I want to be. And so I used it, and these are major projects. Like, they've got the eyeballs. Everybody see, it's like, who did those illustrations? It's really created a lot of buzz.
Mm-mm.
And I believe this project won an award also. Um, but yeah, super cool. This project also got to, in a roundabout way, work with the actor Rosario Dawson, who did the narration on the video animation work I did for that project.
Mm.
So somewhere, some famous people know my work also.
Yeah, and that's where it starts.
Yeah,
It's kind of like referrals from a restaurant. You do good work for one client, they'll talk about you. They will, because there's really they kind of, in certain fields they all kind of know each other, especially in movie posters. They all know each other. They all
yeah,
talk, so they know who does which artists do good work.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that, Corey. So those are two huge wins. Obviously, the we can see the career success. You got these two big projects. You turned a normal design campaign into an illustrated campaign with because you had the drawing skills.
Yeah,
But to me, the most exciting is I felt like it's the identity change, Corey. I think if you could, if
yeah,
you could, choose only one big win from the last few years, it was that moment when you were like, oh, this is who I am now, and
yeah,
that self belief, and
yeah,
that's tremendous because you'll have that forever now. Okay, Corey. Now that we've seen some of your challenges and some of your wins, let's take a look at where you are now and where you're headed. Because to me, this is the most exciting. And I
yeah,
think anybody watching who just watched all of your beautiful, your professional work, your commercial work, your
yeah,
illustrative work, to see what we have on screen now, I think this
yeah.
obviously excites me. So talk to us, Corey, about where you are now and what is going on with these looks like superhero kids. Tell us
Super
about this.
super kids, yeah.
All
So
right.
I um I had a really kind of heartwarming moment with my nephew a while back. Not this nephew, but another nephew where I asked him what he wanted to be, what if he could pick a superhero, what superhero would he want to be? And he says Miles Morales and Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I asked him, it's the one in the top left. I asked him, I was like, well, why Miles Morales? And he was like, because he's cool and because he is black. And a light bulb went off in my head that if I've always thought about this kind of stuff, watching movies, watching comics, and where are all the diverse characters at? And because I think representation is important. Is like when you see yourself in the things you admire, you feel like you can become that thing, or you can do. You can conquer the world. And so it inspired this series that I'm calling the Young Heroes Collection. And it's really about showcasing young um, black children as iconic superheroes,
Mm.
and highlighting some black superheroes, highlighting just superheroes in general, or maybe their favorite superhero. So I've made it my mission to just make sure a lot of my work reflected who I am, my background, my race, and to do it in a way where that younger generation can see these pictures and feel like they can be a superhero, that have somebody that looks like them. I think just representation is very, very important. And so I'm working on a fifth around 15 drawings, 20, as many as I can get in, 10, 15 drawings of superheroes, across the different ge- genres, and across the different time frames, so way, way, way back to some more modern day superheroes. um, and you're seeing a lot of them come to life. I have a few of them already in progress that I'm really, really, really proud of, and it's going to keep going. But I've made it sort of my mission to make sure that all of my art sort of had some sort of representation involved. This little guy here is my newest nephew of the family, Cameron, and they call him Bean Bean. His nickname is Bean Bean, uh, and it's just it's not that Johnny Storm was his favorite character. It's just there's a he's just obsessed with like blowing out the candles and blowing out candles, and so my brother's got to watch him around fire and stuff. And so we had this little joke as like, yeah, little Johnny Storm. And so um I so I made him my muse for this particular drawing, and I wanted to come up with something that felt really, really unique, but really kind of sort of captured his personality and likeness. um, and this one's fun because I'm trying to incorporate some new tricks with environmental lighting. A lot of the things that I learned in the class around portraiture, um, are seen here, but we also learn about how to build stories and how to build a picture. Like, this is what I meant by, like, how do building a picture and telling a story. And so all of my drawings in the series are going to have that component to them, where it's not just about the portraiture, but it's also about the story you're trying to tell within that portrait. um yeah, I love this series, and it's just something I can work on for, like, forever. And so uh I think it is part of my calling.
You're basically becoming a fine artist in a way, or you're moving towards it because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
I don't know if this is still true, but you were started to reach out to galleries and institutions because you are, from what I understand, Corey, you're serious about making this a proper art exhibition with the real drawings on the
yeah,
real paper, on the real frame, with the real lights.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I'm
that to me is exciting.
absolutely. And I love this shot here. This is a great reminder of the work that
Yeah.
it takes to build a good picture. I didn't used to do this. Like, I didn't used to thumbnail. I would just jump straight into these large ambitious drawings, and I wondered, why am I always getting burnt out? Or I'll draw a full drawing, hate it, throw it away, and start again. And it was like, what am I doing wrong? I so and when I learned graphic design in college, we would sketch logos, for example, and the instructor would push us, draw 50. I need you to draw 50 iterations of that symbol. But I never applied that to my art. And I never applied that to something like this, until Chris was like, no, you got to put in the work. This is what it is. This is thumbnails. Like, this is how you work out your ideas in a low stakes way, where it's not the final drawing. You're getting burned out because you're not planning, and you're not picking you're not building up the right reference. So um and these are actually kind of fun, like, just to
Yeah.
test out a quick idea and say, ooh, that's feeling good. Oh, that's feeling good. I like that one better. Now, this is like this is hard for, if you can't make a decision. Like, if you're indecisive, it could be dangerous. But that's why you have the community, and that's why you work with
Mm.
other artists within the academy, is because you know they can look at those things like, oh, that one's really, really working well. And I love that about the community, because you can share your early thumbnails guilt free and get really, really good advice. And I love that.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things I appreciate about you is you have no shame and no fear. You're like, hey, let me show you what I'm working on, and you're very gracious and accepting feedback, and you're also very generous and helping others, especially in our group. Yeah, thank you for that, Corey. We're all excited to see your next. It sounds like um, you are going to continue to work on this hero series, do more traditional work. Is that right? Is that what
Yeah,
we can expect from you?
yeah, that's what you can expect. You know, I think that, you know, AI is out there now. There, you know, and it's a tool that you can leverage as your part of your process. But I'm just so passionate about maintaining traditional art and sort of, you know, there's a long rich legacy of traditional, and you know, I want to be a part of that preservation, like, you know, many of the others in the group. But I just think that the way to stand out now is to focus on traditional handcrafted works of
Mm,
art, because with all the AI out there, when you do something by hand, that's really going to feel like magic. And I feel like when people see, oh wow, it there, you know, there the not everything is perfect, and you know, not everything is so super perfect. Like, you might have some rough edges, you might have, you know, lost, and you know, lost edges and hard edges, like that can only come from that in moment and very intentional approach to dry mediums. And so I don't know, just think that if you ever wanted to be a traditional artist, now's the time, because the market is flooded with everything else. And so
it is.
yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts, and I know we talked about that too, Chris. So traditional all the way.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and we can all see your growth in that medium, and I know that now that you have so much momentum, I hope we will continue to see more from you. Let's close with this. Thank you for your time, Corey. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they keep up with your latest artwork? Where do you want people to go?
You can check me out at you know, LinkedIn, Corey Creative. I'm posting a
Okay,
lot of stuff on LinkedIn these days. You know, as a
let me put it
career
on screen
professional,
here.
as a as a creative professional, I know not a lot of artists are using LinkedIn, but I tell you what, if you want to make money off your art, this is probably one of the places you should be. So you're going to see me posting here a lot. Um, and you know, I do have my store, Corey Jones Art Shop, where I'm going to post some original drawings for sale. Many of the collection items will be there, and you can buy the drawings right now. You can buy some of my early sketches. It's a lot of fan art,
Corey
and
Jones art. Ah,
yeah, good. So a lot of some things are already sold, but I keep them up just to kind of showcase ability. If anybody wants a custom drawing, that there it is. Um, but there's some stuff available. You know, I'm willing to
oh,
part ways with
fantastic.
some originals for sure. Yeah, so that's where you can find me. You know, you know, I'm working on a second channel. I have a creative director channel that I give a lot of advice for creative direction, and that's a pretty well established channel at this point. But a lot of the stuff on this channel is really about, you know, staying inspired and really kind of like growing as a professional within the creative field. You can get a lot of great advice here. And I'm going to work on a channel for my artwork as well, where I might show some more process stuff,
Mm,
and you know, that's coming soon. But I'm everywhere. You, the Corey Jones is everywhere, so you'll be able to find me
mm.
just by even accessing my LinkedIn and a lot of other places. And I hope you do.
Let's close with that because have been I have become a LinkedIn fan, and it is underrated. And full disclosure, I got one movie poster job last year from LinkedIn. So guys, I am proof that LinkedIn is viable for artists. And Corey, like we
Yeah,
mentioned in the beginning, Corey, 15-year career of hiring and firing artists. Guess where he goes to find artists to hire and fire? He finds them on LinkedIn primarily. Am I right, Corey?
yeah, absolutely,
Thank you for your time, Corey. I appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing more of your work and hopefully connect with you as well on your channels. I appreciate your time, Corey. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
Take care.